Okay, this is video number 11 in our subdivision series. We have in previous videos put together a corridor model and a design surface, and now we are adding feature lines to our design surface. We've added feature lines for all of our building footprints, for some of these feature lines that we've extracted from our corridor. And now we need to really start fine-tuning individually these parcels, these lots that we have. And again, we started with the frontage. So here's a feature line along the right-of-way frontage for each of these parcels, and that's been added into our surface. I then added the rear lot lines as feature lines so that we can include those in the surface. We added the building footprints to the surface. And now I'm ready to start adding these interior lot lines. So the lines that happen between our structures, so these side lot lines, I need to turn these into feature lines and then add those to my surface as well. So I've already added a few of these feature lines to my surface, and I will continue that now. So I like to create feature lines from polylines, and you'll notice I created a polyline here that just mirrors. If I move this over, you can see my lot line underneath it. So I'm just literally mirroring these internal lot lines with a polyline, and then I will create a feature line from that polyline object. I'll just let it name the feature lines with the default template, and I need to make sure that these feature lines are on the same site as all of my other feature lines so that they interact with each other and also with my surface. So again, make sure you've got your feature lines all being added to the correct site. I'm going to leave the style alone. The basic style is fine for this feature line. I'm going to leave the layer alone for now. I can always change the layer that objects are happening on. I can change that after the fact. So I'll leave that alone for now. I will erase the existing entity. I don't need another polyline here, so I'll just have that polyline replaced by a feature line. So that's this erase existing entities. And then I will assign elevations to that feature line as we create it. I will not add any weed points, however. So I'll just click OK. And then it asks, how do I want to assign these elevations? I do want to use elevations from a surface, but I want to use my design surface. So that is the surface we are creating here. And I do have elevation points at both ends of this feature line based on my design surface, and that's what I want to pull elevations from as I create this feature line. I do not want to insert intermediate grade breakpoints or use relative elevation. I'm going to leave both of those unchecked, but I am going to take elevations from my design surface. So now when I click OK, it has created a feature line. Notice the color changed. And if I select that object now, I should see the ribbon change, and it will give me the button for elevation editor. So if I open my elevation editor, notice I have 2 points, just the endpoints of this polyline, and they are taking elevations from the design surface. Now if I use the design surface elevations in my feature line and I add this feature line back into the surface definition, it's not going to change much really, because the points at the endpoints of this feature line, those are already coming from my design surface, so we're not really adding too much information to the surface, but I do want to have this feature line in my surface. So I'll close the elevation editor for now, and I will add this feature line that we just created to the surface as a break line. Make sure you select your design surface and OK. I'm not going to give it a description. I'm not going to change any of the weeding or supplement factors, so I'll just click OK. And notice it did change the surface. Because this is a break line, that means tin lines cannot cross a break line. So it is going to change how my contours are showing up. although it didn't change much throughout the rest of the parcel, right? It just changed the contours a little bit right here along the lot line. And I want to see what that does effectively to my surface. So if I go to the Analyze tab, or probably even faster than going to the Analyze tab, where you can find flow paths over here, you can also click on your surface and find the water drop tool. And I just want to see what is the water doing on this particular site or on this particular parcel. I just want to make sure the water is running away from the house, and it looks like it is. And I'm especially paying attention to what is it doing in between the houses. So where I've added this feature line in, it looks like the water is running towards the rear of the lot, which is good. We want the water to travel away from our buildings. And I will check the next lot over to be certain that we have good flow. And again, it looks like all the water is flowing away from one building and not into another building. So this lot looks okay, but as I get to the opposite side lot line, so this line has not been added to our surface. And let me get rid of some of these water drop lines. Again, if they're on excuse me, if they're on a unique layer, you can select one, right-click, select similar, and it will pick all of those polylines for you. But if I check this surface in this area, notice the water drops want to run right into this building footprint, and that's of course not what we want to happen. So I need to create another feature line for this side lot line. So I'll create another polyline and just snapping to the endpoints of the existing parcel line, and then create a feature line from that object. So again, leaving most everything alone, I do want to erase that polyline and assign elevation, so I'll click OK. From the design surface is what I want. Again, I'll click OK. So we did not change any elevations in our surface. I haven't changed any elevations yet. We can if we need to, but I want to add that feature line back into the surface as a break line. And notice it does change the contours here along the lot line. So I do know that it has had an effect on our surface. I can check that by picking my surface and selecting the water drop tool, or again, finding the water drop tool on the Analyze tab here under Flow Paths. And I'll just check to make sure that we have now water flowing away from that building, and it looks like it is. And it looks like it's having that effect on both sides of the lot line, so that's good. Again, checking the other opposite side lot, it looks like we are having water run back towards this building, and I can fix that by creating another feature line and adding that into the surface as a break line. Now it's possible that after you create a feature line, assigning elevations from your design surface and adding that feature line into the definition of your design surface, it is possible that water is still not traveling where you need it to, because we've only given 2 points of elevation data here on this feature line. And these 2 points of elevation data are being collected from first the feature line at the extents of our corridor, and also the feature line at the rear of the lot. All of the feature lines I've created exist on the same site, so they should interact with each other. If I snap one feature line to another feature line, it will make the elevations agree on this feature line running along the back of my lots. Those have elevations, and actually snapped right to an elevation point on that feature line, so that when I go to the elevation editor on the new feature line, this point of intersection here has the same elevation on both feature lines, because they are on the same site and they are taking elevations from the same surface. They should agree. Again though, if I am still having water run into my building footprints, I can add some additional elevation points here on feature line. So if I go into the elevation editor again, I can add an elevation point. I can insert an elevation point anywhere on this feature line that I need it to happen. So let's say, for example, I want to add a feature line right here, kind of at the midpoint of this feature line. All I have to do is click. Anywhere I click on this feature line will add an elevation point. So let me try this one more time. I'm going to insert an elevation point right here, and it's telling me what station this is happening at, and it's giving me an elevation. That elevation again is based off of what's happening on our design surface. So when I click OK, I should see that point added to my feature line, and then if I needed to change the elevation of just this new point to make my surface work, I can change now all three of these elevation points. So you may need to add additional elevation points along your feature lines to get water to flow where you need it to. But that is basically the method I am going to use across all of these parcels. So I have to go through and individually create a whole bunch of feature lines, taking elevations from the surface, adding that feature line into the surface, the same surface as a break line, and then using the water drop tool to make sure water is flowing correctly. I also want to be certain that I'm meeting all of the design specifications. I know in this project we said that all of the slopes that we see in our yards have to be between 2 and 10%. So I'll go back and check all of that after I get feature lines added. But I think adding all of these interior lot lines to our surface is really going to start cleaning this up. And then after you've added all your feature lines, then we can start going in and really fine-tuning some of the elevation points here. I see places like this is we've got some really steep grades here, definitely over the 10% mark. So I think I might have to do some fine-tuning, some adjusting of these elevation points along rear lot lines and side lot lines. But the first step is to add all of the feature lines into your surface. So I will, before I get to the next video, I will add all of these feature lines to my surface, and then in our next video we will talk about creating a volume comparison surface so we can figure out how much earthwork needs to happen to actually build our design surface. So we will catch that in the next video.